Hello, friends. There are two expressions in golf which seem sort of interchangeable. They are keep your eye on the ball and keep your head still. Very popular. Now, it's been my experience that everyone in my profession, without exception, if you ask them, can hit a golf ball while they're not looking. In other words, look away doesn't make any difference to the end result. But keeping your head still is much more popular. In fact, Harry Vardon, 120 years ago, in his very famous book, The Complete Golfer, thought that if you could control it within a 16th of an inch, he thought that would be appropriate. He also recognized that it was pretty much impossible. We're humans, but it gives you the idea of how important he thought it was. And keeping your head still, because your head doesn't move independent of your body, is actually a function of your legs, and even more particularly of your right leg. Now, the fashion in his day, 120 years ago, was that the foot would be turned out slightly nearer to the target line than the left foot, what they call an open stance. And he would then do a very big turn. If you look at the clothing he wore, he had a very tightly fitting Norfolk jacket, and he would bend his elbows and have what they call a cuppy wrist here, an open club face. He would roll the club open. Now, a lot of that was to do with the attitudes of the shaft. It was a wooden shaft, a lot of axial torque, but also because of that tight fitting jacket, which, by the way, he had tailored particularly tightly. He would be turning the entire body. But because the foot was forward, even though it was turned out slightly to facilitate a turn, it didn't drift into a new location. Now, fast forward just one generation to Tommy Armour and, of course, the great Bobby Jones. Tommy Armour had the foot dragged all the way back away from the target line and slightly open. But you'll notice with his swing that the hip, which obviously with the leg back there did straighten a little, but the hip didn't relocate, and the lower leg particularly. And then, of course, the most classic swing of Bobby Jones, where he had this lovely languid movement. And again, the right foot and leg completely planted, but capable of turning. And in fact, one generation after that, with uh, Ben Hogan, he was advocating that the foot be forward and that it would be partly used as a winding mechanism, that you would turn the shoulders 90 degrees, the hips 45, and that the tension built up by that winding would be beneficial. So, what I would look for is to keep your head still. I would look for your shadow and have the sun behind your left shoulder so that the shadow is in front of your right foot, somewhere around at 1:30 on a clock face. And the benefit of that is that even as you turn, you can keep it in your field of view so you can derive benefit. And you can practice your swing, keeping your head still. And what I hope you'll focus on is what element of stability or movement is required by your right leg to make that true. And I think you'll find that beneficial. Now, when you work on that for a little while and you start to find that you can keep your head still and you're more familiar with the shape and location and maintenance of your right leg, you'll find that it stays bent. The hip never moves sideways. It stays the correct height, uh, may even on occasion sink a little bit, which is not atypical. If you look at Ben Hogan, it sank down just slightly as he swung back, but it doesn't relocate, and particularly the lower leg. You don't want it straightening. You certainly don't want it rolling out onto the edge of the foot or spinning. And then I think you'll find that the right leg and your head still are matched and valuable elements.